This is so massive an issue. You're into possibly, I've heard as high as $10 billion that the IRS may have to pay out to make compensations for this. This is how big an issue it is. If you remember during COVID, they basically announced they leveraged the disaster relief issues and made it nationwide and said that, well, everybody has till July 15th to file your tax return because it was happening right in the middle of tax season. So they gave everybody till July 15th. And of course, the IRS went home. Nobody was working at the offices. You couldn't call anyone, couldn't reach anyone. If you mailed a check, the checks weren't being received. They were going into semis and they were being saved for some future event. So there was a lot of this like delaying, and the IRS announced delays. But what happened is some people became vulnerable to penalties because of deadlines that occurred during that window, or they were charged penalties during that whole time period. So the IRS audit team had failed to really consider this, and so this is a big issue. Several months ago, there was a court case filed by a person named Hong who had certain payments that he had owed. They were owed during the COVID period. The COVID period with the IRS, they gave extensions for how long you had to pay various amounts of penalties and file tax returns. There's a number of extensions that happened. Well, the IRS went ahead and assessed Hong in the audit penalties that disregarded the set asides. Hong took it to court. IRS fought it, and the judges ruled against the IRS. And as a result, Hong is getting waived large amounts of money from fees and fines that the IRS had assessed during that time period. And they got waived. This also has now set a precedence that is being replicated all the way across the country. Tax professionals are working with their clients to look at how much penalties they may have experienced as a result of this. And we ourselves have gone back through our database and looked at people who experienced fines during this COVID period because they are candidates for filing for a rebate on these fines and penalties. If you are someone who would be eligible or think you could be eligible to this, the way to process that is to calculate the amount that you should have gotten and file Form 843, which is a request for refund, and you mail it to the IRS. Always mail it certified, get proof of delivery. You're going to add a little description to that saying that it's related to the Hong case. You're claiming penalties for fees that should not have been charged because of COVID. You have to give a calculation on how much that is and send that along. And that's pretty much what it's going to be. Now, you want to make sure you describe that in accurate terms that an IRS person would understand. So I would highly recommend that you get a tax professional to help you. You go back on your billing records and you see when fines were assessed. If it's assessed in a certain window, then you have to back out those charges. They should initiate a program which will automatically back those things out. And part of the issue here is there's a deadline coming up. Like, well, wait a second, why are we playing this game where the federal government overcharges me and then waits till I have not had a chance to understand the problem? And they fully know the problem. They fully know they did this, and they have not put it in an automated program to give the money back to the people. It's confiscation, is what it is. You know, if they owed the money, they'd come after you. If you owed money to them, they'd be coming after you. You'd never get freedom from that. Well, it ought to be the same way around. Whenever I have clients that are audited, I tell them, well, we need to take this to tax court to challenge the IRS on it. Everybody gets scared. And this, I want to tell you about why you do want to do this. The IRS has 30,000 suits filed against it, people challenging the results of audits. Only about 300 of those ever get heard in court. So that means that 29,700, if you will, are being settled out of court. Now, why is that? Is that because the plaintiff, you, the taxpayer, has done wrong things? No. It's because the IRS does not want to go to court. First of all, when they go to court, it's expensive in terms of time and labor. But if the court rules against the IRS, it could have explosive consequences. So if you are a person, you're going through an audit, and you don't get the fair results out of the audit, I highly recommend people go to court and file it because the IRS is terrified. Now, during the court, it is a legal proceeding, and you're dealing with lawyers, and they like to threaten and be intimidating. But the closer you get to going to court, typically the month before you actually go to court, the IRS is going to bend over backwards to cut a deal. They really, really, really never want to go to court. So this is why the IRS really tries to avoid these situations. And when they do go to court, they only go to court if they think they can absolutely win. So this is why you get your best negotiated settlements with the IRS, is by putting them to the point of fear that you might be the next $10 million liability that's created in tax court by a plaintiff.